You are trapped. The conversation has completely flatlined, you've exhausted every possible topic, but leaving feels incredibly rude. Therefore, you just stay there, sweating through the awkward silence. Welcome to This Explainer, where today we're going to master the art of the clean exit. It's a foolproof, structured framework to escape literally any dying conversation without looking like a jerk. So let's start with a really relatable problem. Have you ever been stuck in a chat where the energy is just clearly gone, but you physically cannot figure out how to walk away? It happens to all of us at networking events, parties, even just passing someone in the office hallway. You desperately want to leave, but there's a huge catch. You really don't want to offend them. And because you don't know how to gracefully bow out, you resort to stalling. You start throwing out empty filler words just to occupy the dead air, nodding slowly and saying, "yeah," while secretly hoping the other person will magically excuse you. But here's the thing. The other person is likely feeling that exact same intense social pressure. Therefore, they mirror you. They nervously chuckle, throwing back a hollow ha-ha to pretend they're still super engaged, even though they are definitely scanning the room for an escape route too. Eventually, someone drops the ultimate conversational white flag. That's crazy. This entire dynamic creates what our source brilliantly calls the conversation trap. It's a state where speech anxiety makes both people tense up. You might even start rambling, bringing up a completely new, boring topic just to avoid that deafening silence. You're basically both held hostage by politeness. So the big question is, how do we break this cycle? That brings us to Section 1, the clean exit formula, or as it's often called, landing the plane. Think of an awkward conversation without an exit like an airplane circling an airport. Everyone on board knows it needs to land, but nobody in the cockpit is actually making the move to bring it down. The anxiety just builds and builds. Therefore, you need to build a runway. The clean exit gives the conversation somewhere safe and totally predictable to land. To build that runway, you need a strict three-part formula. Number 1, acknowledge the positive chat. Number 2, provide a light reason for leaving. And number 3, end with a warm close. You absolutely need all 3 parts in that exact order to make this work smoothly. Let's see this in action. First, the acknowledgement. Good talking to you. Next, the light reason. I'm going to grab some water. Finally, the warm close. I'll catch you later. Combining these 3 simple elements creates a graceful landing strip that instantly releases all that built-up social tension. But you might be wondering, why does saying something so incredibly basic work like absolute magic? Well, let's dive into Section 2, the 5-year-old logic, and why this formula actually works. It really all comes down to what the source terms 5-year-old logic. Imagine you're playing with someone on a kindergarten schoolyard. If you just abruptly stand up and run away, the other kid is going to feel confused and probably pretty hurt. But if you simply announce, "that was fun, I'm going to eat my lunch now," nobody feels bad, they totally understand the transition. Ending an adult conversation operates on that exact same primal logic. When you leave without a clear reason, the other person's brain interprets it as a rejection of them. But when you state a specific task, you completely remove that personal element. By systematically walking through these 3 specific beats, you send very powerful subconscious signals. The acknowledgement tells them, "hey, this conversation was positive." The reason clearly states, "I'm leaving because I have a biological or logistical need, not because you did something wrong." And the warm close seals the deal with, "we're still good." You aren't rejecting them, you're simply transitioning. So we know the psychology is solid, but how do we adapt this to different situations? Let's find out in Section 3. Landing the plane safely and adapting to real-world context. The absolute beauty of this framework is that it's entirely modular. Whether you're dealing with a colleague at work, a guest at a party, hanging up a tricky phone call, or just making small talk with a stranger, the outer shell stays exactly the same. You just swap out that light reason in the middle. At work, it becomes, "I'm going to get back to this task." At a party, "I'm going to say hi to a few people." The structure holds up perfectly every single time. But honestly, taking this out into the wild for the first time can still feel a little daunting, right? Which leads us to our final section, Section 4, the 3-level exit challenge, putting the framework into practice. You can overcome any anxiety about trying this by using a tiered challenge system starting today. You don't have to start at some high-pressure networking event. Instead, you slowly progress through 3 levels of difficulty. Level 1 is easy mode, which is entirely digital. Level 2 is medium mode, dealing with very low-stakes interactions. And finally, Level 3 is challenge mode, the real-world, face-to-face social exit. Let's look at how you actually scale this up. You can start incredibly small on easy mode. Next time a text thread is dying out, don't just ghost them. Send, "Good catching up, I'm gonna get back to work. Speak soon." It's that simple. Once you master that, you upgrade to medium mode with a cashier or your neighbor. And finally, you conquer challenge mode, gracefully excusing yourself from a high-status networking event. "This was really nice. I'm going to say hi to a few people. Hope the rest of your evening goes well." It's the exact same formula, just with higher stakes. The framework is literally right there in your hands, and the runway is built. The only question left is, which conversation are you going to gracefully exit from today? It's time to stop nervously chuckling, stop dropping endless yas, and stop circling the airport. Get out there and land your next conversation safely.